How's it going, my bones? SilverDFanng with more YouTube reactions. Serious history. Craziest fights in history. This one I watched with Octavia and Kinney. There's some insane shit. I had fun with it. They kind of dipped in out. Not their thing, but I think you'll enjoy it.
Okay.
Craziest fights in history by Serious History.
Here are the most epic brawls in human history. Number 1, the sandbar fight. We're starting off with one of the craziest brawls in American history that made a legend out of a man named Jim Bowie and his signature knife. It's a beautiful fall day on September 19th, 1827, and Samuel Wells and Thomas Maddox have each independently made the long journey from central Louisiana all the way to the remote area of Natchez, Mississippi. Sharing
Natchez.
similar ambitions for wealth and power, the two men have repeatedly crossed paths, and over the years grown to hate each other. Every attempt at peace has devolved into a shouting match, and with no path to settle their grievances with words, they're looking to squash their beef once and for all with a pistol duel on a sandbar island in the middle of the Mississippi River. Like modern-day prize fighters, Wells and Maddox have each brought with them 5 supporters. But if the goal was peace after this duel, the two men could not have chosen worse cornermen. Between the supporters were rivalries that were more intense than even that of the duelists themselves, and no two men hated each other more than Jim Bowie and Major Norris Wright. Jim Bowie, a friend of Wells, was a large and powerful man who fancied himself as somewhat of a real estate investor. More accurately, he was probably a scam artist selling fake land deeds to newcomers to the frontier.
So, a normal landlord.
But hey, this is America, right? Understanding what Bowie was doing, Wright denied him a bank loan and began spreading the word around Louisiana that he was a crook. When Bowie hears about this, he hunts Major Wright down to a hotel bar and demands that Wright say what he'd been saying behind his back straight to his face. Major Wright stared back calmly and without warning draws his pistol and fires, aiming directly at Bowie's chest. The bullet somehow hits a coin pouch tucked in Bowie's vest pocket, saving his life. And without thought, he launches himself at Wright. As the Major's friends try to pull them apart, Bowie bites Wright's hand so hard that one of his teeth is left stuck in Wright's flesh as he's pried away. That night, he vows to never be caught unarmed again, and he and his brother have a blacksmith fashion a 9-inch hunting knife that he would begin to carry everywhere. Now, this altercation happened just a year before this duel, so this is all pretty fresh in Bowie's mind, and he has his eyes locked on Wright as soon as he sees him arrive on the sandbar accompanying Maddox. As Wells and Maddox watch their supporters mean-mug each other, they realize that they might have made a huge mistake, so they force their supporters to stay far away and remain separated while they have their duel at a distance. Wells and Maddox walk with their seconds, receive their pistols, and take their positions. The signal's given and they fire at each other, but both miss. Their weapons are reloaded, and again they take their place and on command fire for a second time. But again, both shots miss.
Yeah, we like to romanticize dueling as this epic thing. Most guns were bad at aiming, and it was just hours of just reloading.
At this point, the realness of the situation is starting to sink in for both Wells and Maddox, and realizing that dueling sounded a lot cooler before they actually started doing it, the men decide to shake hands and call their beef settled. Honor had been restored to both gentlemen. Hooray! And the day ended without any bloodshed at all. Nice! Or that's what they thought. See, as the men and their seconds begin to walk together towards Maddox's camp to get some refreshments, Wells' supporters, General Cooney and Jim Bowie, rush out from their waiting area upset and wondering why the duel is over if they're both still alive. The duelists explain what happened, but Cooney, still craving a day of violence, turns to Robert Crane, his hated rival and Maddox's second, and says, "Colonel Crane, this is a good time to settle our difficulty." And this is when the shit hits the fan. Crane, still holding Maddox's pistol from the duel, aims at Cooney and fires. The bullet misses Cooney, but strikes Bowie in the hip, knocking him to the ground. Cooney draws his pistol and fires at Crane, hitting him in the arm. And immediately, Crane produces his own pistol from his belt and fires back at Cooney. He hits an artery in his thigh and he begins to bleed out. Bowie scrambles to his feet and menacingly unsheathes his knife, looking for revenge after watching his friend get shot. Crane, now holding 2 empty pistols, throws one at Bowie and hits him square on the forehead, shattering the gun and knocking him to the ground.
This is
for a
so
second time.
stupid.
Bowie crawls away and slumps against the giant driftwood log to try to regain his composure. The gunshots startle the remaining supporters from both camps, who all begin rushing in, and Major Wright spots his nemesis dazed on the ground. Without hesitation, he rushes towards Bowie, quickly draws his pistol, and
bloodshot eyes. What the fuck?
Angry.
Look, when you're angry and you see your rival, you get bloodshot.
Now, no.
Then you're not angry enough.
fires at him, trying to finish him off for good. Bowie rolls out of the way at the last moment, and Wells' second, a man named McWhorter, throws Bowie a pistol, which he quickly fires at Wright and hits him. Screaming, "Damn you, you have killed me!" Wright unsheaths his cane sword and stabs Bowie in the chest, puncturing his left lung. Wright bends over trying to remove his sword from his rival's chest, but it's caught in Bowie's sternum. Bowie quickly swipes at the Major with his free hand and manages to snag a hold of Wright's collar. With the cane sword still lodged in his chest, Bowie pulls himself to his feet and whispers into Wright's ear, "And now, Major, you die." He plunges his knife into the heart of his sworn enemy, taking his life. As Bowie and Wright stand in their bloody embrace, Wright's friends, the Blanchard brothers, fire their pistols at Bowie, and one of the bullets pierces his arm. Bowie quickly shoves Wright's body off of his knife and slashes one of the brothers, cutting his arm and taking him out of the fight. As the brothers begin to flee, the remaining Wells supporters open fire, and the unlucky Blanchard with the gash in his arm adds a bullet wound to his list of injuries. More shots are fired, but no one else scores a hit, and the original duelists finally regain order and stop the violence. The entire brawl lasted just 90 seconds, but 2 men are dead, and Jim Bowie is severely injured, being shot twice.
That's all in a minute and a half? Jesus.
And stabbed in the chest. Crane, having no previous bad blood with Jim Bowie prior to the day's events, helps walk him to the doctors who were standing by at the duel. "Colonel Crane, I do not think, under the circumstances, you ought to have shot me," says Bowie as he's being worked on. Word of the sandbar fight got out amongst the people in the area, and the knife used by Jim Bowie would come to be known as the Bowie knife, one of the most iconic American-made weapons in history. Number 2.
I hate that. I think the Bowie knife is super awesome looking. I hate that it was created by a landlord who was angry that he couldn't easily grift people. That sucks.
Miyamoto Musashi versus the Yoshioka School. It's the spring of 1604, and an unknown 21-year-old swordsman named Miyamoto Musashi arrives in the capital city of Kyoto. The trip is not a vacation.
Incoming
He's
at
here
break.
on a mission to seek out and duel a member of the famed Yoshioka School of Swordsmanship. The Yoshioka were once the private instructors of the Ashikaga
Welcome, Octavia
Shogun, and are considered the best in the land.
2245.
Decades ago, Musashi's father Munisai had dueled the founder of the school, Yoshioka Kenpo, and won 2 of the 3 bouts. Musashi is determined to prove to himself and the rest of the world that he's just as skilled as his father, and defeating a member of the Yoshioka school was his first step. The head of the school, Yoshioka Sejuro, quickly accepts. Though Musashi was an unknown name, the Yoshioka never forgot about their founder's defeat at the hands of Munisai, and defeating his son would avenge this loss for their family. The duel is arranged to take place on March 8, 1604, in front of the Rendai No Temple, and just like the duel between Musashi's father and Yoshioka Kenpo, each swordsman will be armed with a wooden sword. On the day of the duel, Seijudo arrives at the agreed-upon time, but Musashi is nowhere to be seen. Hours pass, and Seijudo grows more and more impatient. Finally,
I gotta stop laughing at how the faces are drawn. Yeah, all his faces are like this. A lot of them are very what's the word? Meme-facey.
Musashi arrives, and the duel begins with Seijudo flustered and upset at the disrespect Musashi has shown him. The two engage, but the duel is over in a single strike as Musashi shatters Seijudo's shoulder, leaving him unable to grasp a sword ever again. When he recovers, he is humiliated. He gives up his school and becomes a monk. Musashi had achieved his goal, and his short time in Kyoto was at its end. But Seijudo's defeat has left the Yoshioka school in chaos. Their master defeated by an unknown wandering samurai. This is a disgrace and cannot go unavenged. So Seijudo's brother, Denshichiro, immediately challenges Musashi to a second duel to restore their family's honor. Musashi agrees, and again leaves Denshichiro waiting for hours at their agreed-upon location. When Musashi arrives, Denshichiro is enraged and attacks him immediately with a 5-foot-long wooden sword. Musashi catches the blade and rips it from Denshichiro's hands. He then beats him to death with his own weapon and walks away. At this point, Musashi has completely destroyed the reputation of the Yoshioka. The legendary family is now forced to install a 12-year-old, Sejuro's son named Mateshichiro, as the head of their school. After all the damage he's done, Musashi cannot...
Wait. So the first guy he beat left his family to become a monk. What a dick.
...be allowed to leave Kyoto alive. A third and final duel is offered to Musashi to be held at the Ichijoji Temple under the famous Sagarimatsu pine tree. Mateshichiro, the 12-year-old, will be the one to take down Musashi. When he receives the invitation, Musashi has his doubts.
Refreshing.
He just bodied their
Thanks,
two best
Chef
swordsmen, and now they
Spiral.
want him to fight a 12-year-old? So instead of his normal strategy of arriving late to throw off his opponent, he arrives early and hides behind a tree. His suspicions are soon proven correct, as the remaining Yoshioka family and their students arrive with a company of men armed with bows and Tanegashima rifles. There was never going to be a duel. The Yoshioka were planning to kill Musashi in an ambush.
Bitches.
But before the Yoshioka can take their positions, Musashi jumps out and shouts, "Musashi waits for you!" and slices through the 12-year-old boy, instantly ending
That you get what you asked for, bitch.
the Yoshioka school for good. The Yoshioka watch in horror as their young master falls to the ground. Their shock is quickly replaced by anger, and they raise their weapons and close in on Musashi. First, the students attack and try to take him down, but they're no match for the wandering swordsmen and are quickly struck down. The archers begin firing, and Musashi's sleeve is shot with an arrow. He then draws his second sword and engages the mob single-handedly. Like a predator chasing wild game, the men scatter as Musashi rushes them. Anyone who confronts him is cut down. The Yoshioka swordsmen have never faced...
Okay, this is really funny. They didn't have time to, like, animate movement properly, so it's just seeing his face, just angrily just walking past people and killing everything. It's kind of funny.
Anyone who fights in this barbaric style, and they can't keep up with the speed of Musashi's two blades. Musashi cuts down 10 more men before the rest of the disciples flee the battle. News of the destruction of the prestigious Yoshioka school spreads throughout Japan, and the legend of Miyamoto Musashi and his two-sword fighting style is officially born. Number 3, the Combat of 30. It's April 30th, 1341, and Duke John III of Brittany is lying on his deathbed. Surrounding him, his closest family and allies are all deeply troubled. See, John never had any children, and there's a lot of confusion on who's supposed to take his place as ruler. They ask him over and over again, "Who will rule after you are gone? Who?" John coughs and turns, and the people around grow silent. "Shh, he's gonna say something." "For God's sake, leave me alone and do not trouble my spirit with such things." And then he dies. John dying without declaring an heir to the throne was a huge mistake, and led to two of his relatives, his half-brother Jean de Montfort and the husband of his niece Charles of Blois, both claiming to be the rightful heir. And this family feud quickly spirals into what would become known as the Breton War of Succession. The English and the French both see what's happening in Brittany, and having just started their own 100 Years' War a few years earlier, they quickly begin to meddle and turn the War of Succession into a proxy war, with the French backing Charles of Blois and the English backing Jean de Montfort.
I feel like that was his way of saying F you to everyone. True. But pretty bad for all his countrymen.
My threshold. I mean, watch this. And I'm gonna watch this. The cream to the cream. The fifth.
After a few years of intense fighting, the Pope comes in and negotiates a temporary peace between all parties in Britain.
You motherfuckers, stop fighting!
Out that one of the most brutal brawls in human history began. See, there are these two areas in Brittany: Josselin, commanded by a Breton knight named Jean de Beaumanoir, and Ploemel, controlled by English knight Robert Bemborough. These towns are only 8 miles apart, so the French-backed forces regularly clash with the English during the war. But now that war is in a timeout, and these knights are getting restless.
I want to
Without
stab
fighting,
someone.
They can't show off how chivalrous they are, and if they can't show off how chivalrous they are, how are they supposed to get famous in Bagahati? So one day, Beaumanoir
It all
travels
comes down to sex.
to Ploemel, and from outside the castle gates, shouts to Bemborough, challenging him to a duel. It would be a good chance to up our honor, at least for whoever wins, of course. Bemborough thinks and issues a counteroffer. Rather than a duel, let us have a tournament. Take 20 to 30 of your men and I'll do the same, and we'll meet at a beautiful field where nobody disturbs us. No prize money.
Oh, why are you going to ruin that field?
Just the opportunity to fight to the death to prove who were the greatest knights of Christ. You son of a bitch. I'm in. This sounded epic to Beaumanoir, so he accepts the challenge. The rules for their display of chivalry are set. Each side will have 30 men, and they'll fight each other without any reinforcements until one side's warriors are all dead, disabled, or captured. Most importantly, nobody's allowed to run away. And with that, the two men go about recruiting their teams. Beaumanoir recruits a mixture of knights and squires from Brittany, who all support France, and Bemborough's team consists of English knights, German mercenaries, and a handful of Bretons who support the English rule. So on March 26, 1351, both sides each attended Mass and went to confession to absolve their souls. Now
I confess that these bitches are about to get murdered. Yes, they were. German mercs were
they
skilled.
can beat the shit out of each other without worrying about going to hell. Beaumanoir and Bemboroughs march their warriors to a midpoint between their fortresses called Half Oak, bringing with them a throng of spectators and refreshments. The combatants choose their weapons.
We don't do bloody battles anymore. They got juice.
Axes, spears, hammers, and swords, and all the participants mount their horses and form two lines facing each other. A signal is given and both sides charge full speed at each other. The crowd erupts as the two lines meet, and the deafening clang of weapons on armor echoes throughout the field. Some men are knocked off their horses and are quickly met with a warrior from the opposite team frantically swinging their weapon at them, trying to kill them. All the men eventually find themselves on the ground, squared up in pairs, and 30 simultaneous savage duels begin. The fighting is dirty and barbaric, with
Look, Kai, this is how you got the bitches back then. If you didn't, kill 10 men, chivalrily, how are the bitches going to know that you're ripped?
blood and mud being thrown everywhere. The women in the crowd start to get grossed out. Is this what chivalry is supposed to look like? A French warrior is slain and is quickly followed by two on the English side. After an hour or so, everyone's dirty and exhausted, and someone calls for a timeout. Both sides agree, and both teams
What are you talking about? This is just the UFC, but with less rules.
go back to their side of the field to repair their armor and weapons, bandage their wounds, and get some refreshments.
Gatorade.
Eventually, the combatants, still bleeding, battered, and bruised, take the field again and charge at one another. A French squire squares up against Bemboroughs and thrusts his spear through his head. Bemboroughs, mortally wounded but unaware of just how bad he looks, tries to stand, and another French knight rushes in and slices him with an axe, killing him on the spot. With Bemboroughs down, a mercenary on the English team takes command and they regroup and fight back fiercely. Beaumanoir is injured in the English rally and is thrown to the ground. He begs for water, and a knight near him shouts, "Drink your blood, Beaumanoir, your thirst will pass." Exhausted again, the two sides call for
Someone write that down. That was epic.
another timeout and retreat to their corners of the field. The break doesn't do much to recharge the batteries of the combatants. At this point, they've been fighting to the death in full armor for hours, and they're all completely
That's
gassed.
insane.
On top of this, most of the crowd is either grossed out, bored, or walking away. Remember, there's no big payday for all of this. This is all to prove who's the most chivalrous here. They lurch back
And again, their leaders are already dead.
onto the battlefield, now clinching and trying to stab each other with daggers and swords. Men are sloppily falling to the ground in exhaustion. It's at this point a French knight decides that the rules of this match are stupid, and he wants to go home, and he gets on his horse and rides onto the battlefield.
Kill him!
He charges straight into the biggest pile of people and steamrolls 5 English knights, which collapses their line. The French team swarms in, and soon the remaining English warriors surrender. 9 of the English team's warriors and 5 on the French team lie dead on the battlefield.
This
Everyone
is
else
so
is severely injured
stupid.
with broken bones and deep lacerations. The remaining English team is brought back to Josselin and held for a small ransom. Surprisingly, the survivors of the combat of the 30 all did in the end get what they wanted, as the story of their brawl quickly spread throughout Europe. Many were treated as celebrities after the fight, and one even went on to marry a princess. So I guess it all worked out. Except, the French side kinda cheated.
As they do. The French always cheat. And that's not me making fun of the French. There's a history of the French breaking rules and honor and all that shit. The French are kind of shady. Anyway, that was a great video. I had a lot of fun learning of some cool fights. Thanks for checking out this video. Check me out on Twitch, SilverDFanng, 2 N's in Fang. Check me out on Twitter and Blue Sky under the same name. Also TikTok. Have a great night.